I wanted to do this little quick, hopefully quick, you know me, Facebook Live to answer Vesna's question. And she had shared, thank you, Vesna, for sharing where you're at and feeling a bit confused and also frustrated, that you're in purpose, you are doing what you feel you're here to be doing, and yet you seem to be blocked at every go, blocked at every turn. And shouldn't we be in the flow? Hi, Vesna. Shouldn't we be in the flow when we're doing what we believe is to be our purpose? And I just wanted to share a few thoughts. The first one is just related to the idea of purpose, because I don't see our purpose as being like a singular destination, one thing that we're meant to be working towards. And in your case, you're working on this book. What I see purpose is as being as layers. So as we are working in that space of where we're feeling called, what we're feeling ignited about, what we're feeling excited about, you are in your purpose. And it might not be the thing, that you're here to do, but it's what you're called to, and you're working towards it. And I think that is being in your purpose. So don't doubt that in your case, the book is where you're meant to be. It's what you have chosen to focus on as the next step of your purpose. It's what you are passionate and excited about bringing to life. And so don't doubt that that is what your purpose is, because if you're believing it's the right step for you, then it is indeed your purpose. Your purpose actually is to step towards your purpose. It's just to explore the layers. It's to peel away the layers, and you can peel them away in 700 different ways. And this is the way that you've chosen. So trust in that. The second thing is that the stuff that comes up in our journey is actually meant to bring us towards those deeper layers of our purpose. So your capacity to work through your blocks, to work through your resistance, to work through the obstacles that come up in your path and the things that don't feel like they're flowing very well are actually what will take you to the new layers. So when those things come up, part of our job is to say, all right, my capacity to actually bring this to life is what's going to take me on the next steps. So I choose to take the steps. So that's a bit of perspective, not seeing the blocks, as barriers, but rather seeing them perhaps as things that just point you to your next step. And that next step could just be a change in perspective. It could be a change in attitude. It could be a change in emotion. It could be an opportunity just to reconnect to what you're doing and why. So seeing those as opportunities instead of blocks. And the main thing I wanted to talk about was this idea of flow, because as soon as I read your question, I had, I started to think about it myself, that idea that when we're in our purpose, shouldn't things flow, because we're doing what we're here to do, and why is it so hard? And I know I felt that way before. It's like a bit of a frustration with the universe. Like, okay, I'm doing what you wanted me to do. Why are you making it so hard for me? And it's this frustration and this anger and this, resentment in a way. And so what I thought when I read, your post, Vesna, and asked myself this question about flow, is that my kind of take on it is that flow is not actually a physical thing. It's not about the actual steps, the actual barriers, the things that come up in your day and in your week and in your plans when things feel hard and you're pushing. The flow doesn't come from those things. And so being, frustrated with them is actually what gets you out of the flow, because what flow really is our own perspective, our own capacity to look at what's come up and how we deal with it. So as an example, being in the flow, you wake up and the weather's horrible and you can't do what was on your plan today, and you're like, this is so frustrating. You're out of the flow because it's a barrier, it's a block. You're questioning, you're wondering, you're angry, you're resentful, and it's, you're on that downward spiral that isn't helpful to taking your steps forward. Now you're feeling stuck. If you were feeling in the flow, then you would wake up and there would still be shit weather. The flow is not the physical thing, the weather. The flow comes from your perspective, and you're like, all right, this sucks. This is not what my plan was, but what is another way? What's my plan B? What's the simplest thing I could do today to still get my jobs done and still, feel excited? And that might mean retreating for a bit, and it might mean retreating and connecting back into your joy and your excitement and saying, okay, how can I make this work? Give me an idea. What's the simplest way here? So that's still being in the flow. So I hope I'm explaining what I mean. I'm I'm not really sure how to put this into words, but the flow doesn't come from everything happening easily and everything just kind of unfolding in your path in the easiest way possible in a physical sense. The right people showing up, the weather cooperating, everybody getting their jobs done on time. The flow comes from your perspective, the way that you are dealing with things, approaching things, your take on how those obstacles are affecting you. So that's a choice. That comes from working at it. It doesn't come from just letting it happen. So you make the choice then to back away and say, okay, this is either an obstacle or it's a redirection. It's an obstacle or it's a sign to try something different. It's an obstacle, or I can surrender and say, okay, then what will I do instead? So your capacity to sort of have that perspective and have that attitude and those emotions, that's where the flow comes from. And we can actually create flow. We can create it. It's not just going to unfold for us. It's our choice. I hope that makes sense. So how can we create flow? That's the question, really. So if we wake up and the weather's crap and our plans go to shit and people aren't getting their things in time and you're feeling stressed about the timeline and all the jobs you have to do, you can see that and you can say, okay, I'm out of flow now. I feel like I'm efforting. I feel like I'm pushing. I feel like everything is standing in my way and I need to shift this. I need to get back in the flow. So what could you do? Well, the first thing is you can go back to feeling in your purpose again and on purpose, and go back to feeling ignited and excited, because I think that flow comes from that feeling lit up from within. But that's not the only way. We can actually use the lighthouse to check in. So the first thing you can do is feel connected to that higher power, that higher purpose, and say, all right, give me a sign, and you could say, I surrender. You could meditate and surrender. You could meditate and ask for another way. You could meditate and say, show me what to focus on instead now that this isn't working. And you could feel guided. You could feel like the universe is just pushing you in a different direction today. You could change your perspective. You can put your eyes on other things. So instead of looking around you and saying everything that's going wrong, you can start listing all the things that are great, listing all the things around you that are working, all the stuff that's led you to this moment, all that evidence of flow that you already have. And you can focus on the flow instead of the obstacle. Focus on the ease and all the signs and all the steps that brought you here and get into that sense of flow. So that's an idea. You can do something like say some things out loud. Our friend Linda taught me to say, why is it so easy? Why is it so easy for these jobs to get done? Why is it so easy for a solution to this video to come my way? Why is it so easy to, open up my computer and find exactly the solution that I need? And having that phrasing, our language, instead of it being, oh, why is this so hard? Changing our language. So that's another idea. Another one is that you can check in and ask yourself, is this actually serving me? So, your idea for the video, for instance, which felt like a big block today, you can say, maybe there's something that is better. Maybe there's something that suits me more. Maybe I could go with my original idea and just shift it a bit so it works better, because that was my natural instinct. Maybe I don't actually have to redo it and make it perfect and go elsewhere. Maybe I could give myself permission. Maybe this is a chance. This isn't working. Maybe I can give myself permission a way to make it work for me in a way that's simple. What's the simplest solution? Remembering that getting into our tower is about simplicity and alignment and decluttering the rubbish out. So you can actually say, all of these should do's and must do's, and I got to have this and I got to have that. What could I get rid of? What do I actually need? The very simplest solution. So that might be a way to get into the flow. It's getting into simplicity and permission. Another one, when we think about our foundation and that kind of warrior energy and that fight, and you can, put that on and back yourself and say, I have two choices here. I can let these stop me, or I can let them show me the direction forward. And I'm going to fight for this. So I'm going to put my fight on today. I'm going to make my warrior. I'm not going to let anything stand in my way, and just kind of have that attitude of, all right, whatever, I'm going to fight for this idea of mine. I'm going to make it happen in a creative, different, fun way. So thinking about your actions, what it actually is you could do that would feel like, yes, I'm going to make this happen. When we get into our spiral staircase and our free spirit and our inner child and our let's have fun and let's play, that's about checking in with your emotions. So again, having the emotion of everything's out to get me, everything's going wrong, why me, poor me, I'm the victim, this sucks, blah, that downward spiral stuff is saying, okay, wait, pause. This is fun. I'm doing this because it's fun to me. It's exciting to me. It's an adventure to me, and getting into that emotion. So what would be something you could go do that would be fun and playful and adventurous and exciting, or whatever that higher vibe emotion is, tapping into that in some way, and then seeing if that helps you get into the flow. And then the final one is the harbor. And the harbor is about just being where you are and surrendering and saying, look, this is what it is. I'm going to just be here, and I'm going to just anchor back into what it is I want to do, and I'm going to just deal. And it's okay. Everything might not work exactly like I thought, but that doesn't mean I'm not in the flow. Everything might not happen the way I was hoping it would, but that doesn't mean my purpose sucks. Let's get back to what really matters here. Let's get back to our lighthouse, to my harbor, to who I'm here to be, to this project, which I really want to bring to life. Just focus on that and surrender everything else and say, I'm just going to be right here, and it's okay. So that was a really quick walkthrough of the lighthouse, but you can actually check in, with that connection to the universe, connection to something bigger than you, to what you know, what you believe, that faith and trust, connecting into what we see, what we're noticing, what we're focusing on, what our eyes are on, what we're saying, what the words we're using, into our surroundings, into the actual things that are on our to-do list, and maybe doing some simplicity work and some decluttering and some permission, into our actions, what we're doing, what we're actually fighting for, into our emotions, into how we feel, and then finally and lastly into our capacity to just be, not trying to be anything else but who we are, doing it with what you have, with where you're at, and letting that be enough, and being okay, and giving yourself some space. So using the lighthouse to check into those 7 chakras, those 7 components, and just seeing if any of those things could help you get into the flow. You don't have to use all of them, but you could try one of them and see what it helps. And when that one is not enough, check into another one. You could also check into yourself and say, where am I feeling this block? Have I lost my faith and trust? Have I, is it that my words are not matching with what I say I want? So wherever, there is that mismatch, that out of alignment, that's the thing to clear, and that's the thing to work on. So I hope that does help. Thank you for saying this was helpful. That's sort of my perspective on flow. And the flow comes from our own capacity to show up and to have that perspective, or say those words, or take action in the way that is serving our purpose. And you can let go of that sort of frustration with the world, that it's, not giving you the flow. That what's happening around you is happening around you. And it's our perspective that gives us the flow. One last idea for you is you could write a little bit of an FU letter to the universe and just let it out. I do this sometimes. I'm like, you know what? Like, you, universe, like, I am doing what you wanted me to do. Serving the world in this way, showing up into in a bigger way in the world, serving my purpose, sharing my story, all of these things that we're supposed to be doing in the world, and you're not delivering. Like, come on, what's wrong here? And just let it all out. Write a big letter and then tear it up and let it go. and just be like, okay, you know what? The stuff is going to show up that's going to show up. And how I choose to deal with it is whether I'm either in the flow or I'm pushing and efforting and fighting and frustrated and blah, blah, blah. So it's on me. So I can I can ask for all of these things, but who I am inside, my vibration, the way that I'm excited about it has to match. So you come together. And that's where I think that sense of allowing and efforting, pushing and surrendering kind of has to come into balance. We can ask for all of that and we can show up and we can say we're here to do, but we also need to take those inner actions as well. And that has to match. So I hope that helps. And if you want to chat about some further ideas, please just comment and let me know. And I'm happy to keep the conversation going in the comments. And for anybody else, out there who is maybe feeling like, why do I feel so blocked every time I turn around? Nothing is working out for me. Maybe this idea here will help give you some solutions to get back into the flow. Big love to you, Vesna. And we're cheering for you. We're all cheering for you. We're all here to help you. Let us know how we can help you. Let us know what you need. Let us know what will support you. And everybody else who is going to pop in at some point and, figure out how to get in the flow. Same goes for you. This is what we're here for, to support one another, lift each other higher. So let us help you do that. Get out of that stuck space and into the flow. All right. Bye.